Hello everyone, it's your favorite West Virginia out in space here, and it's no secret that there are many, many bad comics in the world out there. Between mainstream publications and webcomics, it's really not hard to find bad webcomic or comics in general. However, one of my friends brought to my attention what single-handedly might be one of the worst comics I've ever read. And thankfully, not only is it really bad, but it also serves as a bit of an example of a lot of trends I've noticed in bad writing recently that I think is a great way to case study, and it's almost like its purest form, if you will. That comic being Natty Comics, created by Stephen Winchell. I hope I'm saying that right. And it's just terrible. It is objectively terrible, so bad that the moment I got done reading it with my friends, I knew I had to review this. So sit down, take a seat, and it's time for the review/examination of Natty Comics, one of the worst comics to probably ever exist. Now, of course, a good place to start is what is Natty Comics, actually? What are we actually reviewing here today? Well, it's essentially a webcomic, like I said, apparently a spin-off from another one called Little Boy's Room, which some of the pages I'm going to talk about at the end are apparently from that comic, but I'm talking about the characters, really, so this doesn't really matter. But the point is, she's technically supposed to be someone who's just kind of pissed off about everything, and in the real world we can't do these kind of things, but in the fictional world she can get the vengeance she deserves and all that jazz. In reality, she's actually just a violent, murderous psychopath who should probably be put down by the Avengers or something because she's that powerful. Yeah, not exactly an unprivileged position when she's as powerful as she is. Trust me, we'll get into that. But ironically enough, we're not going to start with her. We're going to start with her dad, then move to her sister, and then finally to the main dish herself. So let's start with her dad. Her dad is honestly a kind of even more boring character than the other two. I mean, he's a jerk. He's killed several people for really very minor to no reasons whatsoever. The most notable thing he's done, however, is on page 16, he beats up Nixon until he resigns, and somehow was not dragged away to a government facility to be tortured for information. Yeah, you're gonna see a running thing here. People in this comic don't seem to actually get sent to jail for their crimes, ever. But luckily, he's a relatively brief bit on the story, so we can move to his daughter and Natty's sister, Honeycomb, who is where things start getting a bit more interesting. Let's go. On page 6, she cuts off a man's arm because she said she would look better if she lost some weight, which is, not a nice thing to say to someone out of the blue, but it's also not worth you getting your arm cut off. 19, killed a man for saying she was bi and asking for a threesome, which is gross. 35, killed a man over some, bisexual related thing. I'm still not fully sure over what. And 50, killed a doctor for trying to talk her out of having her tooth tied, which, it's not exactly, I mean, you can make all kind of arguments about, he was, being pushy or whatever, but, still not worthy killing him over. And finally, of note is 17/6, where apparently, and this is not really so much evil as it is kind of funny, is that apparently she's really easy to get with if you just don't like Quentin Tarantino. Once again, I don't really care for Quentin Tarantino either, but that seems like a really real reason to do it with someone, but whatever. She has killed at least 8 people, and on page 41, probably a lot more. And do you remember how I mentioned how some of these characters have powers? Because some of these characters have powers, and you're about to see how overpowered even her sister is. Because the powers that I can confirm she has by basically reading the comic is super strength, fire breath, some kind of lizard form, some kind of explosion bomb power, and some Hulk form thing. Because remember, nothing speaks plight of the average person like having more superpowers than an Avenger. But now we can move on to the main dish of this comic ourselves, Natty herself, who, pages of note, we're just going to go on from, is page 5, threw a grenade into a car because the 2 people in there were catcalling her. Page 8, ate a man's hand for touching her on the lower back, that's a whole thing. 11, shot her DS when the game only had boy and girl for choices in the game. 12, beat up a guy for asking why she was always mad. 24, she and Honeycomb killed a man, which, if I remember correctly, was over something stupid. 26, stole a kid from his family because the father was happy he was playing with trucks instead of dolls, so we can add kidnapping to a list of charges. Can someone get that guy who does Scooby-Doo? How long will they be in jail in this lady? I'm just curious now. 29, throws a man from an Uber driver type with his car into the horizon because he asked her if she wanted to have some coffee. Let's see, 31, kicked a man in the nuts after sleeping with him, which I'm still believing he was probably R-worded, because I don't know how else that would happen. And when she asked her his favorite movies, he, in the middle of his list, didn't name movies with a strong enough female role, even though he wasn't even finished with the list. So, that's a whole thing. 37, after being called ugly, shows her true form, which is some Lovecraftian nightmare thing. 40, killed her friend over giving her a hug instead of a handshake, because, that's how you treat your friends, people. 46, killed a man over saying a young woman shouldn't have short hair, which, once again, he's a jerk, but his death really warranted here. 49, beat up her dad for thinking the guy friend she was gonna hang out with was her date, which, he's from like the 60s and 70s. Does that assumption really shock you? I'm just being honest. 56, sent a man through space-time whip for saying a cheesy pickup line, because that isn't completely unwarranted. 59, killed a man for touching her new tattoo, which, once again, a bit rude, not worthy of death, though. 60, killed chivalry in her mind, somehow, and we'll get back to the Mountain of Skulls here in a second. 67, killed two men for looking at her butt, which is, I don't know why, honestly, they were looking there. Once again, jerks, but is death really warranted here? What was that? Yeah. 68, more of a plot thing, but like, this is actually, I just want to go over real fast. Why did they not make this guy just a full-on pedo? He's a total creep, but like, just make him a pedo and then just kill him. Why, when it was so easy, he was saying like creepy pedo stuff, why on earth could you not just actually make him a pedo? And then for one time, we could actually agree with the main character going on a killing spree. Just once? Was that too much to ask? 85, burnt down a whole library and wants to do it to all the others, because, that's not at all. Why? You want to burn knowledge, you idiot? That doesn't make you look good. Though it is, and really nothing in line with communism. Let's see. 88, just punching people over literally nothing. It's not even particularly deadly or violent this time, but it's just like, that's just mean. Like, really? 92, steals a cop car with her sis. And that's not, it's bad when mass beatings and property theft aren't even like on the list really of like the worst thing she's done. And 94, killed a friend after he said she put him in the friend zone, which she kind of did, and by turning into a bear and then saying kill all men, because that wasn't at all a overblown reaction. According to my count, she's killed at least 13 people, hundreds more with the skull pile, but I can't technically confirm both how many that were dead and how many, she killed personally. And as far as powers go for this relatively normal person who's supposed to be, the victim in most of these situations, we have can grow a mouth from her lower back, laser eyes, is some Lovecraftian monster or can shapeshift, can turn someone into a donkey, can grow her hair and use as a weapon, super strength, can rip into space-time, some tattoo power or some kind of shapeshifting thing, the whole butt demon thing, I guess that's shapeshifting, I don't really know, some light-based attack, and it can turn into a werebear like its altered beast. You see why I said these characters have more power than bloody Avengers? Yeah, but now granted, I just gave you a whole list of why this character in this world is insane, but I do want to actually go into just a little bit more detail as this comic of an overall, rather than just reading off stuff that happens. Now, the first thing I kind of want to go over is just simply how much this character kills people. And once again, I have nothing wrong with characters killing bad guys, but these people really did not deserve to die in, like, pretty much all the cases. Like, at most, they were just jerks, not even particularly creepy or out of the ordinary ones. So death or physical beatings is just way overkill. And once again, it doesn't actually help you any point that, like, oh, they're the real bad guys, because when you do evil in such a disproportionately higher scale for really nothing, it doesn't make them, it makes them look completely just like, who can care about someone who catcalls someone when you blew up their car with a grenade in the start of the comic. And also another thing is they all the people when they die instantly go, oh, I've realized the error of my ways. This is effectively a version of the trope of like the death realization thing. And it's actually kind of disgusting if you think about it. The whole idea that, these people just be going about their lives, maybe at most being a minor jerk, if even that, because sometimes they're just legitimately complimenting her for whatever reason. And then straight up killing them, and they have this whole, oh, I realized the error of my ways. Like, this Natty's not on the right. She's a genocidal freak. And also is that, like, the whole point is that she's, she's underappreciated, paid, trying to reflect the struggle of the modern woman, but she's so much more stupidly powerful than everyone in this universe. No one can take her. It's not like she lives in a world with other people that have powers. She is the only one we see demonstrate abilities. In fact, to my understanding, I think only 3 characters in the entire comic demonstrate any kind of supernatural power, the 3 being women, and it's just, like, insane. She's not, like, no one can do anything to her, really. Like, granted, we don't see her take damage. That's usually because no one who disagrees with her would get the chance to fight back, because they get massacred too quickly. And even Brian said, this isn't really, it's not even like catharsis, because they can have messed up, dark heroes who are not even objectively good people, who would be the villain in other stories, but you have to put them up against a threat even worse than they are. It's part of why, like, say, Alucard from Hellsing Ultimate Abridged isn't a good person. In many stories, he'd probably be the bad guy, but because he's fighting against people who are infinitely worse than he is, it's easy, he can still be the hero. There is no proportional. She is disproportionately bad to minor inconveniences. And what's the message here? Like, I know it sounds weird. I'm not saying every comic has a message, but the whole comic was set up as, the world is unjust because women can't do these things. Why would you want them to? Like, dude, every man in this world should be paranoid as heck of Natty, and realistically, someone should probably assassinate her for all the genocide she's committed. I mean, I'm sorry, but at some point, it becomes just, she's unredeemable. We don't really get anything in her life that even vaguely justifies her actions. No tragic backstory, nothing. She seems to have a relatively normal life. Maybe not perfect, but once again, she doesn't even have to deal with the consequences of her actions, which, ironically enough, is a very privileged thing because, most people, if they killed 13 plus people in violent, brutal ways for no good reason, would be in jail or hunted to the end of the earth, but she gets away with it. Ironically enough, hearing the whole message that she's a, underprivileged person who has to struggle against the system when she can just burn the system or do whatever she wants because there's no consequences for her actions. She just does whatever she feels like whenever she wants to, and no one can stop her. And as you might think, okay, well, this is a really bad comic, but there are other things like it. Why did this one get a particular video review for me? Well, one, it was that crazy. But second of all, as you can see, far more interesting is that I see traces of this in other comics a lot more recently. You see this kind of attitude, this kind of, like, lack of consequences, of disproportional justice, quote unquote, and all these things that just don't add up. It's a bad writing technique. It's kind of a cousin to the Mary Sue, if you will. Debatable, you might be able to call one. I wouldn't, but I wouldn't necessarily disagree if you did. And you can see elements of this in other comics. Like, I'm not Starfire, ironically, if it's kind of a more tame version, but you kind of get some of the attitude there. And you see it in other places, too, and all over the place. And sometimes the webtoons a lot, too. What's up with webcomics in this? But, and overall, I just want to give a thought, because even regardless of politics or anything like that, she's not a good character. At least, she's not a good guy character. A genocidal maniac who'd be put down like a rabid dog, like, by other characters, yeah, she could work there. But she's not a good main character. It doesn't work to give any kind of message. Ironically, if it hurts any kind of message you would want to send about how women are treated unfairly by having them be disproportionately insane. So, as a broad concept, it just fails. It wasn't a good comic. Ironically enough, the main creator disowned it, though not because it was terrible, but because he was stepping over women's voices or something like that. I don't know. I don't get it. But overall, that's just my thoughts on the comic, as you could say. It was such a review of it. And it was just a mess. It was so bad, like I said, I had to review it. I had to talk about it. No one else really wasn't, to be fair. It probably should be forgotten for the most part, but I just see, like, it almost feels like the progenitor of so much bad storytelling today, even though I know logically it isn't. I can't help but feel it's like the spiritual ancestor to so much of, like, bad written characters today who just get away with awful, horrible stuff for no discernible reason. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's just my opinions. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you disagree? Do you like? Whatever you think about that, please like, comment, subscribe down below, and I'll see you all next time. Yeah. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.